Okay, so here we have demo 3 for practicing using value. Remember, value is your light and darkness of a color that's going to help make something look more realistic because it's going to give it depth and dimension. So we're going to be kind of applying that value that you practiced in demo 1 and demo 2 to an object now. So you're going to want to pick a 3D shape to shade in. And there are going to be templates attached to your Google Classroom assignment that you can use, or you can draw them, and I'm going to show you how to freehand draw some of them now. So one option would be a cube. If you've never drawn a cube before, you can draw a square, and then another square with one corner sort of overlapping there in the middle. And then the other 3 corners you're going to connect to the square that's in front, and then you'll want to erase the lines from the original square because those are behind and you're shading this solidly so you won't be seeing those. Another option would be to do a sphere. So the shading is what's going to make the sphere look like a rounded ball. You're really just going to want to start with a circle this time if you choose to do a sphere. You can just draw it freehand like I did. You can use something that's round like a cup or a jar or whatever, or you can use a compass if you have it available, but it doesn't need to be perfect. Okay, remember this is practice. You could do a cone, so you could draw an angle and then a rounded bottom on it. Or if you really wanted like a pyramid where you're going to have sort of that angle split in 2 and straight sides. Or you could do a cylinder, which would be an oval with 2 straight sides and then a rounded other side. And you could do that horizontally like I drew it, or you could do it vertically as well. Once you have, figured out which one of these you want to do, you only need to do one, and you want to draw it somewhat big on your piece of paper. So I'm going to start with my cube here. It doesn't need to take up my whole paper, but I do want to have a pretty decent sized cube, so I'm not trying to shade in something teeny tiny. Now there's 5 things I'm looking for with applying value. I'm looking at a light source, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. I'm looking at those light, medium, and dark values, which you practiced in demo 1. And I'm looking at smooth shading. So I'm going to be using a pencil to get that smooth shading to work in layers like you did in demo 1. If you're working in ink, it's not as easy to do, but your shadings should still be neat and even if you're working with ink. Gradients, I'm going to explain those, as well as shadows in a little bit too. So first thing you want to start with is a light source. Light source is, where is the light coming from? Is it a lamp? Is it the sun? What is creating the light, medium, and dark values on your object? It can come from the left or the right, depending on what you want to do. It can come from the top. I'm going to actually draw a little arrow here to show that my light is coming from the upper left-hand corner. You don't need to do the arrow, but it might help you kind of keep track of where the light is, because if the light's coming from here, everything up here is going to be lighter and everything over here is going to be darker because of the light, and the object blocking the light is going to create a shadow over here. When I go to start shading, I'm going to start with those dark, medium, and light values. This front face here, since it's not directly facing the light, it's going to be my medium value. So I'm going to start by shading that in. I'm going to work in layers like I did with my value scale, so I'm shading all in one direction. You'll notice that I'm kind of holding my pencil at an angle. It shades it a little faster and helps keep it a little more even. I switched directions to do my second layer to kind of build that up a little more. I will apologize. I'm trying to go kind of fast because I don't want this video to be super, super, super long. So my shading might not be as smooth and even as I would normally like it. Please do your best. All right, so there's my medium value. Up here's my light source. So I'm going to start shading it in as lightly as I possibly can. However, if you think about it, since I'm getting over here to this area where my darkest area probably would be, this part up here is probably actually going to be darker and this is going to be lighter. So this is a good place to put in one of those gradients. A gradient is just that, it's a fade. So you start out dark, pushing harder, and you gradually ease up as you get towards the lighter side. So up here, I'm going to do just that. I'm going to start darker, pushing a little bit harder, creating more layers, And then as I go, I'm going to ease up and I'm not going to shade in as much as I get closer to that lighter end. This last side is going to be my darkest side because it's farthest away from the light source. So I'm going to push a little harder as I'm shading. I'm not pushing as hard as I possibly can in case I get too dark. It's probably not completely black or as dark as I can go. So I'm only going to do a couple layers and build it up as dark as I can get it without going too dark. Now, the last thing you want to think about is you're probably going to have some sort of shadow. If you've got light here and this is blocking the light, there's going to be a shadow over this way. So a lot of times there will be a little bit of a shadow underneath, but the majority of my shadow is going to be kind of working its way away from my cube. And this would actually probably start as the darkest area, wherever that shadow starts, right underneath my cube. And it would be another good place for that kind of gradual gradient, that fading away as well, because shadows tend to, you know, ease up the farther they get away from that object that's blocking the light. So I've got another gradient in there. You know, I've got everything I was looking for. I have a light source, it's lighter over here. I have light, medium, and dark values. I have 2 gradients, and I have a shadow. If you finish your sketch, you finish your drawing, and you've got all 5 of those things, take some pictures of this and your other practices and upload it to the Google Classroom assignment. If you have questions, let me know, and have fun.